When I say it costs money to breathe, it doesn't quite make sense because technically the air is free, right? Well, that depends on how you look at it. And what I mean by saying that is that every single person on this earth walking this planet has a cost to exist, to walk the earth, and to breathe the air. If you add up all of your monthly expenses such as rent or mortgage, transportation costs, bills and groceries, insurance, that is the monthly cost for you to get through the month, to survive basically. Then if you were to divide that number by 30, that's the daily average cost to exist. Then if you were to divide that number by 24, that's hourly cost. And then if you were to divide that number by 60, that is cost per minute. Even if it comes down to just a few cents per minute, there is still cost associated with that. Even when you were a child living under your parents' roof, it was technically free. However, it came at someone else's expense. Depending on where you live in the country or the world, that cost to walk the earth and breathe the air varies greatly. The reason why I brought the analogy of breathing is because more and more often, both on the internet and in real life, do I hear people saying, I feel like I'm drowning under the piles of bills and just feeling like I'm being pulled underwater without the ability to catch a breath. Many news outlets report that nearly half, if not more than that, of people have deep, crippling debt with seemingly no way out. The worst part is it seems to get worse with each year with no end in sight. In this video, I want to talk about the cost of living, inflation, shrinkflation, and other issues surrounding it, but from a point of view from minimalism and frugal living, since this is what my channel mainly focuses on. All the sources mentioned in this video will be linked below in the description. To be honest, minimalism, simple living, and frugal living just completely saved me. Saved my family in this volatile economy. If I hadn't woken up back in 2020 to see clearly what the corporations are doing and where everything is headed, had I not changed my finances entirely and my spending habits as well, I would have been drowning again like I used to. Back in college when I was making $8.65 an hour and going to bed hungry most nights just because it was cheaper. On a more positive note, however, it's so amazing to see how many more people are jumping on the trend of no by 2025, tight budgeting, underconsumption, reviewing their financing and seeing where they're at financially, especially a lot of the young people. The unfortunate thing about it, however, is that many people will be forced into this lifestyle as opposed to joining willingly. Involuntarily, so to speak. And there's a big difference between coming to your senses yourself and deciding to do certain things when it comes down to your budget versus being forced into it simply because you cannot afford anything like you used to. There is most definitely cost of living crisis as well as a lot of doom spending. Doom spending is when people buy things to cope with negative feelings in regards to economy, politics, and other issues. Gen Z and millennials are especially susceptible to this. I would still like to keep the vibe of this video just a little bit positive even though things are looking pretty grim. Right now, more than ever before, we can learn the lessons from the Great Depression. I highly recommend watching the Great Depression documentary. It is free on YouTube, link below. Times are tough right now for many, but the glimmer of hope is that it's not always going to stay this way. Maybe it's time to adapt our lifestyles to current circumstances, review and make changes, and still strive to enjoy life with less. The lessons in this documentary are known to many, but not often followed. Probably because sometimes it makes us think that we are invincible. It's going to be the colleague who gets laid off, not me. This applies to others. Others need to save and prepare, not me. I'm gonna be fine. Life, however, is often unpredictable. Today you have it all, and tomorrow you have nothing. Let's briefly go over the lessons summarized in an article by Shane Murphy. The article actually came out in the thick of 2020, which was another disturbing time in recent history. The summary of the lessons goes as follows. 1. Save for emergencies. 2. Do it yourself. 3. Take steps to avoid debt. 4. Eat at home. 5. Don't be afraid to relocate. 6. Live within your means. 7. Odd jobs are better than no jobs. 8. Spare change adds up. 9. If you want to retire, start saving now. And 10. Help your community. So if we know these simple lessons and we know exactly what to do, why is it then so hard to follow? You see, some of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, are lifestyle inflation and inability to scale down. When you finally start making real adult money and have a little bit extra left in your bank after paying all the necessary expenses, you start thinking, maybe I should start upgrading my everyday items, from soap to skincare to clothes. You say to yourself, now that I have this extra money, I deserve a nicer version of XYZ. The problem with this, however, is over time, with this insane inflation, prices literally doubling, and corporations price gouging, it really does become hard to pay for necessities as well as the wants. And scaling back, going back to the no-name brand, or going without is hard for a lot of people. It hurts the ego a little bit, but it also makes people feel like they're taking a step back. They're starting from ground zero, or they're going back to where they started. I will be making a separate video on how I've overcome lifestyle inflation, and as someone who came from absolutely nothing and have been very broke many times and then worked my hardest and paid with both my mental and physical health to kind of make it by the world standards, I really know what I'm talking about, and I'm not ashamed to think and talk about these past experiences because they truly made me me. Thus, going over each and every expense and basically separating the needs from wants is really hard. A lot of people I know would be buying Bath & Body Works soap even though it's $5 on sale or, $6, $7 at regular price, and they would not switch back to the regular, Dial soap or whatever because it's so much cheaper just because they're so used to that elevated lifestyle. Now, another very important point that's worth making is that you simply cannot budget your way out of poverty. If there's simply not enough money coming in to cover basic necessities, no amount of budgeting will help. And I'm obviously not talking about that group of people. Essentially, with budgeting, you can either increase your income or cut back on your expenses. There's really not a magic way to suddenly have more money. There's a term called new money, which describes people who have recently become wealthy. Sometimes they can be identified based on behaviors and purchases they make, which differs from the old money folks who have been generationally wealthy and have inherited what they have. Well, in lieu of all of these recent events, unfortunately, the new term coined in will be the new poor. While the old poor are those who have been historically poor, the new poor are those who have recently come to a realization that they can no longer afford basic things and necessities that they used to. Well, this is the year we don't listen to influencers and whatever they're trying to sell us. We listen to regular people and learn from each other. Regular people will know how to survive and weather out the storm in any economic downturn because they're very much in touch with reality. Shrinkflation now has to be one of the most triggering and enraging things. How there's just a few less cookies in the bag, there's just a few less chips, a few less items in the bag, less milliliter amount, even though the packaging is still getting bigger. Well, we do notice, especially when you bring the new item from the store into your home and you still have the old packaging and you can compare, because the price goes up and the contents go down. All the while, these companies are reporting record profits each quarter. From the minimalist point of view, the newly imposed tariffs and inflation shouldn't affect us that much because we're the group of people who don't buy much to begin with, right? Yes and no. It's quite literally nearly impossible to eradicate consumption entirely, and at various times of your life, you quite literally need to buy things, especially when it comes down to groceries and food. Currently, the price of eggs is absolutely ridiculous, and I think when there's a scarcity aspect to it, it makes people buy it even more. Reference to 2020 and the toilet paper fiasco we had. I'm currently just waiting it out, not buying eggs at all, cooking other recipes that don't require eggs or substitute them for something else. I also hope that it's temporary, and if not, well, I guess I'm gonna be looking into buying some chickens. If someone asked you, how many subscriptions do you have? You'd probably think for a minute and say, well, maybe a streaming service, maybe a food delivery app, just a few. But in reality, if you think about it, everything is a subscription. Rent is a monthly subscription to living at a place. Taxes is annual subscription to the country of which you're a citizen of. And of course, bi-weekly paycheck subscription as well. Health and car insurance is a just-in-case subscription. Phone service, also a subscription. The definition of a subscription is the action of making or agreeing to make an advance payment to receive goods or services. Because if you make rent payment on the first, usually you're allowed to stay there for the following 31 days. And as soon as you stop payments, the services will be rescinded. People are definitely becoming more and more sick and tired of how CEOs of companies are switching everything into a subscription model. And pretty soon, other people are joking about it, but is it really a joke when you're gonna have to pay for your car seat warmer to work and it's going to be a subscription monthly? Or if you need your car to start, it gets to a point, really. No, so 2025 is the year where people have had enough. People are ruthlessly canceling their Amazon subscriptions, their Netflix subscription, because besides it being a subscription where you can't even share your password, they also keep raising prices again and again and again to the point where it's not even worth it to have the subscription anymore. So no, we're doing no by 2025. We're living minimally, living frugally, budgeting now, and getting better with money. The hope is that just like after the Great Depression, things got better, things will get better for a regular person just trying to live their life again. And the hope is that all this is just temporary and we can weather out the storm. An important point I would like to also make is that as an exception to my 2025 no-buy year, I will be supporting wholeheartedly small businesses and local farmers because I feel like they get hit the hardest. One huge mistake I made in 2020 is that I let all that negativity and media consume me so much to the point that honestly 2020 was just a throwaway year. I was constantly worrying so much that I completely forgot to just live and set goals and enjoy life here and there a little. It was a huge mistake and it had consequences for years to come, and so this year I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. There will always be something negative and something positive to focus on, and the month of February, if you are watching my channel, as I spoke in my previous No Buy February video, not only will I be focusing on non-material things, but I will also be focusing on relationships, basically reviewing every relationship I have in my life and thinking of ways how to better them and spend more time with people that I love. Please subscribe to my channel and thanks for watching.